So the character in a nutshell is a witch. She is an occultist. This is her ascendancy class. I went for Profane Bloom first, sorry. Profane Bloom was my first pickup through the lab. Second pickup was Unholy Authority. Third pickup, Void Beacon. Fourth pickup was Withering Presence. All of these are quite important. And I mean, you could probably switch up how you pick them to a slight degree. But it is personal choice on how you do it and how fast you play the game. If you blast through the campaign like I did with this character, you should be able to pick up most of these within a few hours. So, but the basic premise of this build, of this character, I'm playing the Arakaali'S Fang minion build, and everything revolves around her dagger, the Arakaali'S Fang dagger, which this dagger, as you can see right here on the line, the first line, 100% chance to trigger, raise spiders on kill. So the premise of how they work is you run a writhing jar, which you can pick up fairly early, but I mean, you're not playing this build until I think level 60 or something, whenever you can run this. There's this dagger. Why can't I see? It's its item level, but what level do you have to be? I have to take my gems out to see it. '53. So you have to be level 53. So you've pretty much made it through the campaign, or at least most of us would have made it majority way through the campaign by level 53. Level 60, I mean, that's generally when you're getting into maps. So you'll have the dagger by then. You're running other things up until then. This is not a build guide talking about how you get here. This is a in-game build. There is a lot of currency built into this build right here. It's not something you would league start on. And with late league like it is, this is more something that somebody would be able to copy, replicate if they're into wanting a auto bomber, because this pretty much just destroys everything that's in its path. So I'll have a POB link in the description below. But back to the basic premise. You get the writhing jar, you throw the worms on the ground. The worms on the ground are instantly killed by your... let me start that over again. You throw Desecrate on the ground, which is throwing corpses on the ground, and then you throw the worms into the corpses, and it generates your spiders. You generally get between 12 and 18 spiders. I mean, if you're lucky, you'll get all 20 of them on your first corpse explosion. But as you play the character and as you continue to play, as I'll show you in a map showcase, the cyclone setup in the helm is going to allow you to continuously throw Desecrate on the ground, which is going to allow the spiders to, hopefully with most luck, and it typically does work, they will continuously stay spawned. So even in like a boss instance where you have to like go fight an in-game boss, which I've done all of the in-game bosses except Maven. I haven't fought her yet with this build. But the minions were easy to spawn. So it's a combination of having the writhing jar, the grapevine gloves, and the dagger, and you basically can get these little guys to count for everything you're doing. So yeah, back to the gear. So you're using the Ancient Skull, which is a very easy helmet to get. They're not expensive. You should be able to pick one up quite cheaply. You have Cyclone, level 1 is quite important just for mana use. Desecrate, level 1, once again, important for mana use. Flesh Offering, that one you can crank all the way up there, which I've got at 20 and 20. And Cast Wild Channeling, which is also very important to stay low, because as you see, I have 39 mana. And I did a lot of different number crunching, different strats, techniques, trying to get more mana out of the build. I eventually just settled with what this is. It's, I think, a little bit better than the previous. I had a different amulet before. I was using Ols instead of the Impresence before, and it was making haste reservation free, which is nice. I was able to put haste in the build. It made me almost 200% speed, so I was zipping around the map like the zoomers. If you really want to be the zoomer, then run the Ol's amulet instead. Let me get its exact name. Ol's Uprising. So as you see, I had charisma allocated to it. It was granting me a clarity skill, which I couldn't use. I didn't have mana for it. But haste had no reservation, which was nice. But I didn't like the zipping around that much. I'm still really fast without that. And I went with Impresence instead, because Impresence gives me Punishment and Despair. Have no reservation if cast as an aura, which we are casting both of those curses as auras. So it made 2 curses free for the price of 1, and I still ended up having to drop the haste altogether. I still am running Vol Haste, but you don't get to run the haste aura itself with the current build setup. There's tweaks, like I said, there's many different variations and tweaks that one could change in this particular build, because I did myself. Next item is the Squire. If you don't have this shield, you basically can't run this setup of the build. This is also, I should preface, which I didn't right at the beginning, this is based off of Mage Blood. If you do not have the belt to run your flasks, then you're probably not going to want to run this setup. You would want to run the Brass Dome setup instead of Chevron's Wrappings, and you would want to run possibly even the Aegis Aurora setup, which I have set up, but which it does give you a bunch more energy shield. As you see, it pretty much doubles your energy shield by switching to it. But the thing that a lot of people forget is that when you're casting your spiders only have what's on the dagger affecting the spiders. So they're half as weak, a quarter as weak, or a third as weak, I should say. Now when you swap over here and you're using this instead, your spiders have 7. So even in a fight scenario, you don't want to swap to this. Like, I've seen a lot of build guys using the Aegis as the setup, and you can use it earlier than you can get Squire, and it's considerably cheaper than you can get Squire. But Squire allows you to use both sockets from main hand and shield. They all count as the one weapon. So you're making this, in essence, a 7-link item. As you see on my spiders, I have 7 things going on here. Or six active things. I have the 7th link being that the dagger creates the spiders for free. So the Squire is quite important. Excuse me. Now whether or not you get your Squire with the same implicits that I have on mine, I mean mine are quite nice implicits. I liked that. It was very expensive, but I got them. The gloves, Gravebind, are your gloves. And once again, look for something with good implicits that's going to help your... I went with Duration. You could get Curse, because this is your Curse setup right here. But Duration works on most of these gems here. Oh, I forgot to go over what's in these items. Let me back up real quick. So you've got Awakened Melee Physical Dam, level 6, Multi-Strike Support 2020. I would like to get the Awakened Multi-Strike 6, but currently that's still like 300 plus divines, and I still don't have them. I just don't have it to spend it. I spent too much on this build as it was, and it's not my only build this week, so... And the other build's just as expensive as this one. Awakened Void Manipulation, level 6. All of these gems were very pricey. You're talking like 5 to 25 divines for pretty much all of these, if not more for some of them. Awakened Minion Damage, support 6. Withering Touch, you do not need to get the Awakened version, it's not necessary. And Awakened Unbound Elements does help if you also get that one. Going on to the chest, like I said earlier, it's Chevron's Wrappings, which just gives you a little bit different stat lines. I'm not using it, so that's a dead line. But you take 50 reduced extra damage from crit strikes is quite still nice for the implicits on this item. Desecrate, fully maxed. This is the one that's going to cast all the time when you're needing to spawn your spiders. The other Desecrate is the one that you're casting with Cyclone. like I said earlier, so that when you're spinning around, you're gonna throw down corpses, and your minions will respawn from these bodies. You want that low level so that your usage is low. It's 23 mana for me to use Desecrate level 1, and I just can't afford to have it any higher. Desecrate, Malevolence, cast with damage taken, which is in pairing with Molten Shell. This is level 1, this is level 5, that's where I'm comfortable. You can tweak this level right here, up or down 1. And you could probably go to Molten Shell 4 if you wanted to, or 6. Just depends on how much you want. Tempest Shield, extremely important. Like this is a pivotal gem. You have to run this. And Flame Dash. Flame Dash is up to you. You could probably put in a different movement skill if you truly wanted to put in a different movement skill. I don't really care. I don't usually use it. I use it only to get out of tough situations. But like I said, Tempest Shield is very important. And it's important because the buff grants immunity to shock. And we're running that in pairing with Storm Shroud. The Jewel Storm Shroud, which mine's corrupted, 4% increased damage, 15 to lightning res, but moderate fires to chance to avoid being shocked apply to all elemental ailments. So if you run this and Tempest Shield, you're ailment immunity at that point, so you're good to go. Back to my gear. Let's do the rings. The rings were something I just recently changed. I wanted more damage out of the build than what I was getting before, so I went with minion damage rings. So this is just a good flat ring, good for resistance for me, life, and some physical damage, which is good for the spiders. This ring was expensive, like 50 divines expensive because of its stats. It is what it is. The minion damage was 42%, which is why it was expensive. The minions have life, would be good for other builds. This build, because it's Arakaali'S Fang and Skitterbots, they don't die. They don't take damage. They'll despawn, but they're not going to ever take damage. So any gem or jewel slot, or when we get to a Ghastly Eyes that give you minion health, it's just a wasted stat line. Alright, so there's the rings. Now onto the gloves. Gravebind, which I kind of already went over, which have the socketed duration gems. And nearby enemies killed by anyone count as being killed by you, which is good. You need that. Temp Chains, level 23. And as you see, it's 3 higher because of support and because of the implicit. Level 23 Punishment, because of that same effect. And Awakened Blasphemy, level 6, 23. That was an expensive one too. And Despair is a level 23, which all 3 of my super important curses are all getting affected by that implicit. Mage Blood, I already showed you. I have a 4 flask Mage Blood, just happens to be a shiny one. Windscream Boots. Windscream are very important because they allow you to apply another curse and increased effect of your hex skills. As you can see, most minion builds like this pair of boots. Plus they give you armor, flat res. Mine have killer implicits, 2 to socketed AoE, and 2 to aura. You've got haste as a level 24 because of that. You have Infernal Legion, which is a level 22. Summon Skitterbots is a level 24. And Determination is level 24. So the gems are quite high because of the implicits on my gear. My flasks, I've got a granite flask. Everything is 70% increased effect. Everything is 25% increased effect on that. So the curse effect reduced on me is pretty much 100%. The armor is great. Love it. Immune to blood, bleeding, corrupted blood. And I have a little bit extra movement speed here. and some fire res because I needed some fire res. My defenses. Standing here with 0 endurance charges, which I do have 4 endurance charges running pretty much at all times when I'm in a map. You have almost 34,500 armor. You have 85% phys reduction, which is pretty good. 90 is where it caps out. You got almost 20% spell damage suppression chance, 50% spell damage prevention. Reses are all overcapped, especially Chaos. Chaos is always important to have up there, and most people forget to do Chaos. But freeze immunity, extremely important, which I get that through the Soul of the Brain King, which I'll show you in just a sec. Immune to bleeding, yes. 50% reduction on crits, like we showed earlier. Block and stun recovery. Those could be a little bit higher. You could probably roll a flask if you wanted to, but I don't typically get stunned. And because I'm immune to shock, like I showed earlier with Temp Shield and Storm Shroud, I am immune to all the rest of them. 113% movement speed, which truly is fast enough. And then if you need to, you can flame dash 3 times. It's more than you really need. Alright, so there's defenses, miscellaneous, just so you can see it. Minion damage modifier 513%, which is pretty big. Charges, I will have 4 endurance charges running, like I said earlier. Alright, now on to the skill tree. So the skill tree, I started out pathed up here, pathed into this. I got this right away, I get the mana reservation from this, increased efficiency. And then you get up here. Before you even kind of get to that though, you have to start pathing down over here. You get the minion node next. Minion nodes are quite important. And then you come down here, grab the life nodes, grab glancing blows, more shield mastery, health. And then the big ones, these are the most expensive things of the build, are the cluster jewels. 11 passives, minions deal 10% damage. I'm not using the raise and pillage because the fire damage doesn't apply, so that's a skill that could be something different if I wanted it to. But I am using Call to the Slaughter, which some of this stuff right here that I'm going over is different than what other people are doing on PoE Ninja. I don't think anybody else was using Call to the Slaughter, but I don't know why not. It's an extra 15% damage. Your minions are created recently. Like, you're creating your spiders all the time. So they get additional movement, they get additional cast speed, or attack speed, in this case, attack speed. That's a win, and it's just an additional node. I mean, yeah, this 13% damage, this is 15%, so there's 2 on top of that. So you get the 13% damage on the minions, which I didn't go over. I'll go over real quick. Because it's the most important line on all of the cluster jewels, except for one, which I'll go over in just a second, is that the skills need to be 35% increased effect. If you don't get the 35% increased effect, then your skills are going to be lower. Like it says, minions deal 10%. So each one of these notables is going to be, or the small passives are going to be 10%. 13. It's because it's 35% more on each of those. So it truly does add up for one line, but that is the expensive line when you're looking at buying these gems or these cluster jewels. You can sit and roll them yourself. I spent, it's like 2,500 alt orbs trying to roll some of these. I did roll one successfully, but there's a couple up here that I'm going to show you that I bought, and they were like 100 divine each. Like, they were not cheap, but they're fractured 35%. So once you get that in your hands, then you can sit and you can roll that however you would like to roll it, which is what I ended up doing to get what I wanted. Because every build's different, you know. Some builds need a little bit more fire res or this. This build, with all the gear that I have, it's weak in fire res. So I need fire res in any way I could. That's why I'm having to run a ruby flask, because I need fire res. So The next jewel, or cluster jewel that I was going to explain, it's pivotal with the build. It's the way we're generating our endurance charges, which is our defensive layer in the game, and it needs to say added or have enduring composure. So once you get that, so once you find a small passive, 3 passive, that's 15% armor, roll it until you find enduring composure. If you're good, lucky, you'll get nice modifiers like this one has: increased damage and fire res and regenerate life. All 3 are things that I need in this build. Life regeneration in this build is minimal at best. So against the POBs and the PoE ninjas that I was initially looking at when I was contemplating making this build myself, most of them had like 35 to 60 life regeneration, which is abysmal. You literally can't take damage because you can take damage. Like, for example, one of the builds that I was looking at, he was running Mage Blood like I am, but he was running 3 flask Mage Blood, not a 4 flask Mage Blood. His extra flask that he had in there was another health potion. You don't need that if you get just a little bit of tweaking going on with your regeneration in the game. You still get the same damage output. I'm still pushing like 32 to 34 million damage with these spiders. And I have considerable more. I think I'm like, I'll have to look here in a sec, but I have a considerable number higher for life regeneration because of the way that I did my tree here. I'll get to that. But enduring composure gives you your endurance charges. Kind of nice to have that. It's also an extra 30% increased armor. And as you see, it's gained 1 endurance charge every second if you've been hit recently. Well, you get hit a lot. You're running through the mobs. Your spiders are killing everything. You're just running around trying to not die. So you're constantly sitting at 4 endurance charges, which is pretty sweet. You don't have to do anything to get it either. This other notable jewel is the expensive ones, and there's a handful of these in this build because you need the mana reservation to make the build work. So it's a 6% mana reservation jewel, 3 passives. It's very important you have it rolled with Mortifying Aspect. Once you get the Fractured Gem, or jewel, if you buy one that has it, it's going to cost you 100. Just to let you know, it's going to cost you 100 div if you buy one just like this. But if you buy a Fractured, just 35% increased effect, you're probably still looking at like 50 to 60 divines. But then you can roll it yourself in the Harvest Craft rolling device, and you can easily just roll it with Chaos. It's like, is it 100 yellow juice, I think? It's pretty minimal. I think it's 100 yellow juice. And you can, I don't know, every like 10 you'll get Mortifying Aspect. So it's like every 1,000 yellow juice you'll eventually get this roll. And as long as you get that other stuff on there, like I've got stats, and once again, fire res. Like I said, you ain't getting no fire res in this build. You need fire res. So because you're 35% increased effect, you have an 8% increased mana reservation on each of these nodes instead of 6. So you're getting a little bit more percentage there, which you need. I'm not kidding, you need. The Mortifying Aspect says that Malevolence is 50%. Sweet. Now let's show you the other ones. Because that's just not... The math doesn't add up. I don't know why, but it just doesn't add up. So I have another one. Almost the same gem. Fractured. Mana reservation. 35%. This one's got 8 to fire res. 4 to lightning. Mortifying. Which is nice. Gotta like that. 10 to fire. 5 to lightning. 8 to res. 8 to res. And once again, 50. So one would think 50 and 50 your Malevolence would be at 0, but that's not the case. Let me get out of here and I'll show you. Even with the 100%, Malevolence still takes 17.36% of this mana, of your mana pool. I even tried throwing a third one of these gems in. Yes, I spent another 100 divine. I bought a third Fractured, threw it in, and you know what it dropped it? To 15%. Another 50% dropped it 2 more percent. So I dumped that. I've got it for sale right now for I think 90 divines. Somebody wants to buy it. But yeah, 2 of them drops it to a manageable level, but 3 did not drop it to 0 like you would think mathematically speaking, looking at what the lines state. Just doesn't add up. You're getting also sovereignty, which is more mana reservation efficiency of skills. You need it. And then I will explain real quick, even though this isn't part of the build, it's part of why I got to where I was. I also tried using precise technique, an impossible escape jewel that got me to precise technique, and I put a couple of a couple of nodes. There's your precise technique, so it allows you a passive over here without being connected to the tree. That precise, or the impossible escape's like 25 divines alone, so if you were to buy that, you can get any of these nodes. These 2 notables right here are what you're after. You want the 12% and you want the 8%, so it gives you an additional 20% mana reservation efficiency. I tried running this, I still couldn't fit haste in, and it didn't fix my build. I lost damage. So I eventually took it out, so I know that's side subject, but I tried, and it just didn't work. Next thing of the build, actually let's go back into this, because it's quite important. As you can see, I have a lot of jewels. I have this one here, that one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. It's because of a Manu's Gaze. The next thing that the build is basically required to have, because you doing anything you can to up your max damage on your minions, you run this little guy right here. A Manmu's Gaze. A Manmu's Gaze. It's a Ghastly Eye, but each Ghastly Eye affecting you up to a maximum of 30%. So it increases the DOT, so you'll watch your damage go faster. The poison dot damage on the bosses, when it starts ramping, it really starts ramping because of this guy right here. But you have to run Ghastly Eye jewels, so you have to spend a lot of points running down, getting into where you can put them. There is a build guide out there where the guy goes into this node here, takes 5 skill points to get up into there. I already had myself an unnatural instinct, so I figured I'd throw the unnatural instinct there. I'd get this tree for free. I miss the double damage on the minions, 6%. Everything else I get, and I get max life, I get armor, I get 1.1 regeneration of life, and some dexterity. I lose 20 strength, I gain 10 strength, gain 10 dex, so I don't really lose anything. I gain that, I gain this, I lose these 2 to get this picked up. So you can spend 5 more skill points that are a level, and it's hard to do, hard to get to 100, hard to get some of these nodes. So there's 2 ways to look at it. You can either put the points in right here, and you can use this jewel socket as another Ghastly Eye socket to give you a little bit more, 6% more on your Amamu's Gaze. Or you can do what I did, because you're already pathing to this one here. You can put those 5 skill points into intelligence right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're almost to this last notable, or this last gem slot. Yeah, you got to take a couple extra levels, but a couple extra levels versus not having the extra armor, extra life, extra regeneration on your life. This is mana regeneration. Regenerate 1% of life. Oh no. Look at that. Imagine that. And you could also, if you want, path this side, which gives you 8 mana. I tried just to look. I think instead of 39 mana pool, my mana pool was at like 47, 48. It didn't. I still can cast everything with 39. And then this gives me more regeneration. So I'm getting more life regeneration by going this route and spending 2 extra points right here to get this jewel socket and this notable. To me, it's a win-win. I didn't see another build out there that's doing exactly the same thing. Mine's definitely a little bit different because of that. And with that being said, I'm sacrificing a socket for a Ghastly Eye, because you could theoretically still path down here. I mean, I'm 97 right now, and I could still path down here. Could I path up? 98, 99, 100. No, I can't quite get there. I need 2 more to get there. But I could take out that minion damage there because I'm getting basically the same thing with some minion accuracy if that 6% double damage actually pays off. Or you could take it out of right here, which I don't want to take it out because that's stats, that's armor, that's regeneration of life for me, and it's the 13% damage the minions are going to do. But theoretically, I have these points. They're free points to use. Put them where you want. The other build guides online were not using these 2 nodes. I am using these 2 nodes. They stopped here and just went down the tree. But so you could technically take these 2 nodes out, leave your cluster jewels exactly the way they are, and you could get this tree fully done. At level 100, that is. You'd have to get to level 100 to get to this jewel. But I can always take these out if I needed to. But why would I? I pathed into these because I wanted 16% damage is higher than 13% damage. And once again, regenerate 1% of life per second. That's for me. Minions still 20% increased damage, which is for them. And then there's the other key line, and this is just something I think a lot of people forget about. Like, minions regenerate 1% of life. Well, what about me? That regenerate 1% there is for me. That's for us. That's huge. So right there in my build, I have at least 3% of life coming back that's not in the other builds. You're still getting this, which is huge. You're just missing that extra little bit of double damage. Now to go over the Ghastly Eyes, because Ghastly Eyes are also really expensive. This is, I think, was the most expensive one, because it's double corrupted, double influenced, 5 damage, double over, which is really nice. And chance to block attack damage if I was damaged by a hit recently. That's pretty nice for me. 2% damage taken as mana for me. That's real good, because then I'm constantly getting mana as I'm spinning through stuff. And some life and some resistances. This one was also expensive. Minions deal 4% increased damage implicit, 6% increased effective non-damaging elements implicit. And then the next line was my favorite. Minions deal 18% increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently. And I'll get to that in just a sec. Minions deal 23 to 35 additional chaos, and minions deal 21 to 26 additional fizz. And then they have the accuracy. This is a killer Ghastly Eye. It was very expensive. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't cheap. So the minion skill that you're using all the time, get to my stuff, is Flesh Offering. It is, as you see up there, minion, spell, duration. So as I'm spinning through stuff, get out of this. As I'm spinning through stuff, that's Flesh Offering. So now for 4 seconds, I've got Flesh Offering going. That's a minion spell. So now my spiders will do another 18% damage just by every once in a while. You give them a little bit of a spin. Easy stuff. Good stuff. So that's because of that one line on that gem. And then the last Ghastly Eye I have in the build is this one. Minions increased speed by 8%. Minions deal 10 to 16 chaos. And I regenerate 16 energy shield per second. Life and cold resistance. All in all, it's quite a tanky build, even though you can get one shot very easily, but it's still pretty tanky. Life mastery 15%, no life modifiers on the armor. Definitely taking that. We've got Divine Shield, and we've got Glancing Blows. As far as big notables, keystone notables. Did we take anything else? Yeah, we've got the minions here. Minions have 250 to accuracy rating there. I already showed this one, but preservation efficiency we took. And that is our tree. Alright, now let's see if we can do some sort of a map real quick. What do we got in there? Haunted traders, lineage, adversaries. Add something. enough harbingers to throw in there, but we'll do some harbingers. We'll get a good map. A difficult map. Oh, and the things that you can't run with this build would be... where was it? It was right there. Monsters are hexproof. That's difficult. I mean, it's doable, but it's difficult. Because then your curses aren't doing anything. And now if that was paired with monsters have a 50% chance to avoid poisons, bleeding, or impaling, you're not killing those monsters anytime soon. And then if they had like energy shield plus health, increased health, 60% less effective curses on monsters, those are doable, but they're kind of a pain in the butt. It's not what I want for showcase. 60% less life recovery. It's doable, but once again, it's a map that I personally don't like to do. Cooldown recovery rate, armor, chance to block, none of those are going to really affect you. Nothing on here is really going to affect you. It's 110. You might run that. It's doable. And let's see, I've got blue turned on. I'm running box farm. Let's open the tree real quick just so you can see. Truly, I was just looking for gold. I'm not really doing boxes with this right at the moment, but more for gold. But I got the whole hat, the extra quant, the extra explicits. Everything here is clicked. All the shrine nodes are clicked on this one. All the scarabs are clicked, and everything's blocked with the exception of the grove, because loves me the harvest. Alright, so first things first, however you put your things in there, but for me it's QQ space. Boom. And they give me 20 spiders. So I threw 2 desecrates, and then I threw the health, which like I said would excuse me, with most of the builds that I was watching online, they've got the extra health potion. When the writhing jar is a health potion, instantly get killed. Did I not have an omen? I didn't have an omen. Oh my god. Well, probably cutting all that out of the build. That pisses me off. I just went back another 10% because I wasn't paying attention. Well, either way, we had a little bit of an issue. We'll try this again. Might be rather difficult with as many dudes as right in front of me here. We'll see. I'm gonna lose this map. That's really crazy. Typically stuff like that's not normally happening. Spiders just blow everything up. It's part of that whole profane bloom. The spiders disappeared. Respawn them before I go in here. Pop ball haste and molten shell. Stand in this guy's Harbinger. See you, buddy. It did not bless me with the bismuth. 'Tis unfortunate. Double Skelly Shrine, huh? Game doesn't like me. Whoa. Sound is all screwed up right now. Here. So that's where I'll use that little dash. I'm gonna get out of dodge real quick because of an explosion. Sometimes you get stuck in it, and sometimes you live, sometimes you don't. It's just this build's interesting. Sometimes you're just like, how did I die? And then other times you just stand in stuff and you're like, man, my Marauder can't even stand in this. How is it she's doing that? It's crazy. Look at all those skellies. See ya, buddy. Alright, well that's pretty much the map. Alright, one of the other things I hadn't gone over that I needed to go over was the Pantheons. Got the Soul of the Brine King here, which, good to do. And then the Minor God's kind of up to you, but Raislotha or Aberath, pretty much the two that you're going to want to use, because Aberath lets you do the Burning Grounds. You'd have to be mindful your spiders aren't as easy to spawn in these maps, because you would be running that instead. I don't care, I just run over the fire and regenerate because of what I've explained already about my health. It just comes back. Raislotha on the other hand gives you flask charges, so your writhing jar will just continuously build charges. Rather important. Alright. Well, that's pretty much my Arakaali'S Fang overview. It's a fun build. Allows you to do almost all the content from what I've seen. Did delving really well. It does harvest well. And I do carry a flask that I can turn on if I need. I'll throw in there and I'll get rid of the armor one. Just to get rid of the burning if I'm in a map that I forget. And there's mobs that are igniting me all the time. Because ignite does hurt. And I meant to tell you my life regeneration. It's only a whopping 231. Not great. But that's better than 60 or 30. So, alright, well I hope you all find this helpful, and like and subscribe to the video if you do, and there will be more coming. Next week is literally Path of Exile 2, and I do plan on obviously playing quite a bit of it, probably going to be streaming some of it too, so until next time.